And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risk to recovery, and we have managed more than $1 billion in recovery and the placement of thousands of insurance policies. We continue our efforts. Obviously, we're right in the smack dab in the middle of the holiday season, and things are obviously looking up. We've seen a tremendous amount of recovery efforts. We're seeing a lot of good things going on. We are in that holiday spirit. We're planning, we're gifting, we're working with our clients to figure out what's to expect in 2023. It's a great time of year. I think it's a time to reflect. I think it's a time to look forward, time to be optimistic about what's going on. And there's a lot of negativity out there. I understand it. The headlines are full of reasons to bury your head in the sand, but look up, keep your chin up, and let's move into 2023 with an optimistic view on things. Let's see what we can do. Let's take advantage of possibly downturn in the economy. Let's take advantage of these harder insurance markets to see what we can do to better assist you and your association or business with it. That's what we're trying to do here. That's what GlobalPro has always been about. We deal with the worst, right? We are on the front lines. We are working with our clients when they are at their worst. So we're used to dealing with situations like this. And I can tell you firsthand, you have to stay optimistic about it. I mean, everything from our charitable efforts to the things that we do internally with our company, with the meetings that we have with our employees and everything else, it's all about that because it's so easy to get distracted by the negativity. It's so easy to get caught up in all of it. We want to make sure that you have a positive outcome, that you have a positive experience, and we believe that we can help you in doing what you need to in order to ensure your future. Now, obviously, like I said, holiday season upon us. I just got back from Texas. Texas was awesome. Visiting with our Dallas office, it was Rob and Lauren did an amazing job on a 1-year anniversary party that kind of got shifted around. All right, we moved it, we delayed it a little bit, and combined it with the holiday spirit. I'll be honest with you, kind of wanted to separate it at first, but it was awesome because I think people, despite everything going on, as I mentioned, I think people are looking for opportunities to celebrate. They're looking for they're looking for an opportunity to kind of forget for a moment about all the other things that may be trying to pull them down and trying to impact them. And so it was awesome to meet with our clients, our friends, our vendors, our colleagues, and talk about what's going on in their lives, what vacations they got planned to come up, how their businesses are doing, how their experience with our team in Texas, and it was just such a positive vibe. I left there just really on cloud nine, just enjoying it. My loving wife joined me for it, Susie, and we again had some cocktails. We had an incredible meal, dinner, past hors d'oeuvres. It was an awesome rooftop location right dab smack in the middle of Dallas. Such an amazing venue, and we had a great time. And I thank everyone for coming out and attending and being a part of that big celebration. Again, combining New Year's with the holiday season. It is a new year. We have a new plan, and we are ready to go. The Texas team made that very clear to me when I was there. And I would say that a lot of the vendors that we lean on, whether it's Expert Services and everything else that joined us for that holiday event, same thing, man. It was just so awesome. It helped me kind of just amp up my energy level, just that much more. To come here, back in Miami, back in the Griffin studio, to share with you this broadcast coming off that trip just yesterday. I'm excited for it. Now, as you notice, it's Thursday. It's Friday, not Thursday. That's what I was trying to say. It's Friday, not Thursday, and that's because of that planned trip and because of the planned meetings and everything else. And sadly, we really couldn't work it around given the holiday season that's upon us and some of the planned vacations and things that were going on, and the amount that we needed to get done right before the end of the year. So, but I'm happy to be here Friday. Why? Because everyone loves a Friday. But it is a day to get the job done. It's a day to stay engaged. It's, I always look at it as an opportunity where if my competitors if there's going to be a chance that someone is going to be lifting their foot off the gas pedal. It's right now. It's on a Friday, particularly in the holiday season. And to me, that's when you go all in. That's when you put your best foot forward. That's when you put as much energy as you possibly can conjure up into it, because you are at the end of the year. And I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people out there pulling their foot off that gas pedal, putting it in cruise control, and just trying to get to their vacation, get to the end of the year. So they can really just turn it off. Well, we're turning it on. We're continuing to push. Why? Because quite frankly, again, we're there when our clients are at their worst. We understand that the West Coast of Florida, Central Florida, and up through the Carolinas on the East Coast that were tremendously impacted by Hurricane Ian and Nicole are still recovering. Well, the media cycle, I will be honest with you, I've never seen such a short media cycle on such a devastating loss in my entire career. It is shocking to me how little coverage there has been about the recovery efforts. And there's a great team out there. I recommend you go check it out on Instagram. They're doing a documentary on the rebuild, and I'll make sure that their handle is down in the notes there. Really cool documentary on what's going on and the amazing effort by so many incredible people, both at the state and federal level, as well as just charitable people just donating their time and energy and money to help with the efforts. And while the media cycle has moved on and somewhat disappeared, this is going to be I can't wait to see the finished product of this documentary. It's going to be really cool to see what humans can do, again, when they suffer from such tremendous loss. And I think there's a lot to learn from it. I'm sure it's going to be played up with some drama and some individual stories to highlight some of the individual efforts and the great efforts that took to do this. But I think, to me, it's a documentary to learn. It's a documentary to see how we are doing things today. Because 10 years ago, things were very different. I've never seen a bridge be built so fast. You see the state government take over a county road and just plow right through it and get it done and in there. You're seeing barrier islands where they completely lost access to and all the resources, the utility services, whether it's electricity, the water, the sewage, all gone. Then they had bacteria, flesh-eating bacteria. They had, I was there firsthand within weeks of the storm, and walking the island literally within 1 week of it. And there's cars literally up inside trees. There's buildings completely gone. And what seemed to be miles, even though these islands are small, it did seem like you could just, as far as you could see, there was complete devastation. So the recovery efforts are going on despite the fact that the media has moved on, but there's been a lot going on in the media. And I think has a lot to do with why. We were already kind of wrestling with this idea of a recession, right? We were already had a politically charged situation in the United States and abroad, whether that's in the UK, the war, China, India, Korea. I mean, there's so many things that were just clogging up the headlines. There's so much for the media to put their arms around, particularly around what continues to be just one devastating story after another financially, the crypto downfall, as well as NFTs. And I bring that up because we've actually dedicated a couple shows to it because of how much focus there was. I mean, in Miami, they have the Bitcoin conference. eMerge, which gratefully eMerge, which is a lot of academic are involved in that. Academias are involved in that. And it's a little bit of different, but I will tell you, this last eMerge was even in itself was very heavily focused on VC money and these SPACs and crypto and NFTs. I mean, as you walked around the floor, there's tons there. But that Bitcoin conference, oh my gosh. The people that were up on stage, I mean, every one of them, I think probably has a tremendous amount of egg on their face. I'll never forget walking out of one of the actual seminars. And the one gentleman that was on stage was so damn arrogant. It was so hard to even listen to him that he basically figured everything out, allegedly a billionaire because of all the crypto. I can only imagine what his net worth has done now. I mean, it's got to be absolutely have tanked. And all the promises that were out there about with crypto and how it was going to expedite things. Myself, who had been invested in crypto, I divested nearly everything that I could actually get access to as early as January. There's all these signs. I mean, a lot of the news was on Reddit, was on Twitter, and things like that. I, as of January, did a major exit from my positions in those things. And why? Because I didn't like what I was hearing, and the people that were providing the information. I felt like they were just too sure of themselves, too arrogant. There was a lot of telltale signs, and this isn't trading advice or investment advice or anything else. I'm just telling you about my own experience. And I just got uneasy about the whole situation, where it was going, the calls for recession, the war going on, and everything else. And I was like, there's just something about it was not adding up for me personally. And hearing some of the stories. Now, I am a massive supporter of the technology, and I think that's really what eMERGE did such a great job this year at highlighting, is more about the technology and how that can help us forward thinking. But the one thing I want to note is how hard or difficult and how long it took to actually trade the crypto. Now, and crypto was supposed to be expediently making transactions and everything else. And I think people are allowed to learn is like how out of control they are with that process. And you had companies like Celsius and FTX and everything else, and fall victim to this situation, and their demise mostly done with the people that are actually running it. And I just it's great pause. I think it woke a lot of people up clearly. I think the holiday dinners are definitely filled with a lot of questions about it. I think some of your younger generations that were extremely bullish on it probably still are even. I think they have a lot of explaining to do to maybe some people they may have convinced to go in on it with them. But that's not the only thing that's creating an issue, right? The down cycle of real estate. We're in one of those cycles again. Where is it headed? What's going on? It is so confusing to read the headlines and the Real Deal, the BizNow, and the various other different news media outlets. It's so damn confusing. I mean, every time I look at one of the headlines, it's you have one guy saying basically total devastation, a recession as you've never seen anything before. Look at credit card debt. Look at debts on automobiles. But you still have a scarcity issue with regards to real estate and houses. You had these huge corporations go in and buy up so much single-family homes like you've never seen before. Single-family homes was something that most investors never got involved in. Very few, and those that did usually had a very bad story. And if they did it I'm talking like big companies that buy up a lot of real estate. And now you have so many of them. In fact, for a while I was traveling to Texas particularly, most real estate guys I was meeting with, and women, were telling me about this other investment they had and how they're buying single family homes. And in fact, I'll never forget one gentleman we met with, Rob and I, told us this amazing story about how they're building like some 1,000 homes throughout the Southwest United States, and had all these tremendous, crazy plans for all this other stuff, and talking about these secondary, tertiary markets, how there's so much opportunity and everything else. And honestly and sadly, that's when you see a recession, that's where you see your real estate values get hit first. But again, though, you have a scarcity issue too, but you still have heightened demand in some urban areas such as South Florida. So are we experiencing the same? I don't know. But if you do go online, and you can just do yourself, go into Zillow, go on Redfin, go onto any one of these websites, and you will see, particularly Zillow calls it out in the top left corner of the picture in your searches on the app. You'll see a lot of homes with a down arrow and a dollar amount next to it. In fact, yesterday, while traveling back from Texas and meeting with Rob, I took note of how many seven-figure reductions I saw on homes, particularly in the Miami area, a market I'm extraordinarily familiar with, and a market in which I have invested in real estate. I've done fix and flips. I've partnered with people on some single-family ground-up stuff. And so I'm extremely intimately knowledgeable of the market and what's going on there. And it was shocking to me, even where we are, where I believe we had a bent-up demand, a scarcity issue, a supply issue. You're still seeing people buy, and they're saying because of interest rates and the uncertainty in the market, and And look at the financial headlines. They are scary as hell. And if you spend any more than 5-10 minutes on it, you might actually think that the financial world is going to end as we know it, and your dollar's going to zero. So I think there's a lot there, but there is still the demand. I just think there's some price correction, and I think it's warranted. Some of these prices were just insane. You saw people buy houses in 2021 at, let's say $5 to $7 million and put them on the market for 10 to 15 million and do nothing to the property. They literally want to double their money on a single family home. And I particularly focused on this because, how big is that market between $5 and $15 million? How many people how much demand is there for a or let's call it around $10 million home? It's shocking to me that that's where people think that they can flip homes at the volume of which we're seeing. So I think there's got to be something, a lot to consider there. I still, again, in some markets like Dallas, I was just in Dallas, man, I know there's bent up demand in there. We know some people that are close to us that put a house on the market recently. They've owned the house for 3 years. They more than doubled their money in 10 days, closed, all cash deal. They were done. Now this home is sub $3 million. It was an incredible home, newly refinished. It was beautiful. Had all the bells and whistles in it. So again, I think there's some parts of the market obviously are going to feel the burn a bit more. But I do think that there's just a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. And I think all of that, going back to one of my earlier points about the media cycle with Hurricane Ian and Cole, believe me, people are still dealing with damage and disaster. People are so displaced in those areas. These historically were second and third home rental market, a big rental market for vacations. Sadly, when this storm hit, that was a hot time of year for rentals. Now we're going into holiday season, which was an incredible busy time of year for people in that market. Those that could recover and rebuild and put the places back together are going to obviously take advantage of the tremendous amount of demand there, not only from the vacationers, but also I can tell you that there's still a huge workforce there helping in the recovery efforts that I know from talking with some mitigation contractors are still living out of hotels and would love to lock up a 3, 6, maybe a year-long rental, but there's just no inventory available. And now, and particularly on the west coast of Florida, they have been suffering from a tremendous lack of inventory, and workforce housing issues were out of control there. I can tell you that I know in visiting restaurants and eating in some of them that it's so obvious. They 1-2 waitresses for an entire area that probably had 5-6 waiters in 2019 and earlier. So there is a tremendous workforce that needs housing in those markets. I know there was a lot of efforts in prior years to change things there. I think this just really exposed some of those problems. So we'll see what happens. And, again, there's other things going on in the media, the prisoners exchange that we just saw, the war in Europe, and some of the things I mentioned, what are the lasting impacts of this? But let's stay optimistic. So let's go into 2023 with some hope. The only way to ensure your success is through planning. I truly believe that. It's total bullshit if you think that you can accomplish much of anything if you don't write your goals down and you don't plan for that success. There's no way you're going to be able to be successful if you don't do those things. First of all, how are you going to gauge whether or not you are successful in it? Your bank account? Believe me, not a good idea. There's too many stories out there that people believe because of the amount of money they have in their accounts that they have some sort of success. Overnight success can take 5 to 10 years. I very rarely have ever seen some overnight success. And I think FTX and a few of these are maybe some clear examples of where overnight success can be troubling. Because how did you get there and can you sustain it? And I think sustainability is becoming a big thing again. Now, we saw prior to the pandemic, a huge focus on sustainability and resiliency with regards to businesses and infrastructure and associations. And there was a massive focus. There was on sea level rise and environmental impacts and things that were going on, whether under any of the administrations. And I'm not getting political about it, but there has definitely been a focus from an infrastructure standpoint on both a local, state, and federal level. There needs to be. It's quite obvious in areas that they are dealing with aging infrastructure, whether it's bridges and seawalls and very many other things that need to be repaired and fortified in order to truly build sustainable and resilient communities. And I had the great opportunity to speak to Miami-Dade Council, to speak to several architects that are very much involved in setting and creating certain standards around doing these things. And we're really getting back to that. We're starting to talk about those things. There is a tougher economy. There is a tougher environmental issue that we're trying to wrap our hands around and deal with. So I think all this lends itself and sadly is further fuel for fire in the insurance market. It's going to get harder. It's going to get tougher. I know in speaking with some of our colleagues that are brokers that sell to community associations and business owners, commercial policies, they have started their planning process way early on, way earlier than they ever done before. So even if you're a homeowner, I mean, my wife and I look at this stuff at least on a semi-annual basis, sit down, look at our insurance, figure out what we can do differently. I can tell you from our experience on the West Coast with Hurricane Ian, particularly where you had tremendous damage to infrastructure in and around buildings that are servicing them, as well as to the buildings themselves. On average, higher deductibles. You're really not negotiating a lot of these commercial losses based on limits. You're looking at sub-limits. You're looking at certain provisions that make it much more difficult to recover the amount of information that you're required to provide to your insurance company, whether written in the policies or not. It's increasingly higher. The standard is so much higher, typically much higher than what the policy actually calls for. But a lot of these insurance companies are just not moving on these issues, claiming that they need post-loss compliance and broad stroking things. So we need to plan for these things better in 2023. You need to get hard on this stuff. You need to get as many of your people around you, advisors and people that you know that you can rely on to provide you credible information that can help you through this process, that you can learn from on how to do these things. So we're seeing this massive shift back to resiliency. Why? Because economic issues, because of environmental issues, because of a truly uncertainty, and also let's talk about pandemics, the flu season, and everything else that really kind of put all of that on the back burner. That's behind us for the most part. And what's being discussed now is, let's get back to business as usual. What are we going to do next year? How are we going to plan for that stuff? So we have a great news service here at GlobalPro. It's not really new, but I will say that we are rebranding it and actually going to continue to promoting it. And it's really to highlight that we, as insurance coverage experts, can help you in placing your insurance. And I want to end on this note by talking about the service because I think it's tremendously beneficial, particularly to community associations, business owners as well. The community associations that have utilized our service and the thousands of policies that we placed in prior years usually came to us right as they got their proposals, not before. Now, and I am encouraging community associations, business owners, reach out to us today before you start going through this cycle of renewal, before you get your new appraisal, before you even speak to your broker. Let us know what we can do. We are offering insurance consulting services outside of where we typically would have rolled it up under the Preferred Client Services Agreement, which is a much more broader service, annual long contract. We're seeing an uptick in demand for us to simply be there when they go to market, when they go to contact their broker, before they even contact their broker. Hey, Dan, can you look at our insurance today? Look at our loss runs. What do you think we need in 2023? This is what our broker did in our planning session. But before we go to market, before we go back to our broker, maybe we're not going to go to that broker. Maybe you recommend a different broker based on what you've seen them place for us over the last 3 to 5 years, and explain to us how you can help us. So we've created an entire program around insurance consulting services. We're excited to roll that out here in 2023, particularly to help community associations and business owners. There's tighter restrictions, there's less loyalty with brokers and their clients, there's more loyalty between your brokers and your insurance companies, and sadly, there are less appointments to brokers by insurance companies out there. There's consolidation, both on the broker side as well as the appointments. And I can tell you right now, I got really close friends that are brokers and they are feeling the burn. They are losing clients because there are insurance companies out there that were just absolutely refuse to give them the quote, but will give it to someone else. This is actually happening. So you need to know who to go to get the quotes, or you're only gonna get yet a few, or maybe even just one, because no one else will write it but the one appointment they have. That doesn't mean it's the only insurance company out in the market that will write your insurance. You might have to go to a different broker to get to that insurance company. So let us know what we can do. We want less talk, less bullshit, and we want to focus on making sure that we're getting you the insurance you need. And we want to spend the time sitting down with you, understanding what is your concerns, what are your issues, and what and how has that product performed for you over the past few years, and what to anticipate going into the next year. And I can tell you, in Texas, in Florida, in New York, in New Jersey, there is going to be tough sessions coming up and legislatively, and their changes are in the works. Why? Because we are seeing the misinformation at a new level with insurance companies. I mean, the garbage statistics that they are using to peddle their nonsense legislation and anti-consumer legislation is insane. And legislators and governors have spoken in prior broadcasts about how weak they are on insurance companies and how strong they are on, again, tampering down on your rights as a consumer. And we're in the fight with you. We're looking at these issues. We are helping at the state and local levels. We support campaigns. We analyze what is going on. We make sure that we're in there, in the mix with you, looking at these things with you. We want to make sure that you have that information you can have. So if you're interested in it, let us know. Reach out to us. Check us out online at GlobalPro.com. Or hey, have you hit the subscribe button yet? If not, hit the subscribe and like us, follow us on all the social media. Make sure that you're right here, same time, same place. We only have 3 more broadcasts to go, and we are broadcasting on the 29th to give you a special New Year's broadcast right here from GlobalPro to continue to carry on with this hope, this optimistic view on things for 2023. So continue to tune in. We'll see you right here, same time, same place on the Recovery Report Live.